Hello, Philip here from Results and Productivity Management Consulting. And today I want to talk to you about the subject of overloads in your business. Now, the information I'm going to go over with you is coming from a larger body of information that is the Hubbard Management System. Okay? Now, to understand overloads and how they come about, it is very important to understand what is an organization in its raw form. Okay, now any organization is composed of coordinated purposes, lines, and terminals. Okay, by purposes we mean ideas, what you want to go for, the reason for something, why you're solving for. You've heard that before, right? Lines are what connects the people working in the organization, the communication lines that connect all of the people in the organization and outside the organization as well. Okay, now terminals are the points in the organization, the posts and the people that deal with whatever they are tasked to deal with. All right, now for an example, when you got a farmer and let's say he's got 5 farmhands, right? He's got a purpose, and this purpose is to provide the community with eggs that are laid by range-free chicken. So very healthy eggs with no additive, no hormones, nothing like that in them. And this is what he's selling to the community in exchange for money. Okay. Now, one of the farmer gets the bright idea to help the farmer by injecting in the eggs, no, not in the eggs, in the chicken, some specific hormones that will allow the chicken to lay bigger and more eggs. It's a good idea, right? Unfortunately, it goes right against the purpose of the farmer. His purpose when he built his company, his organization, his farm. Okay? Now we have an uncoordinated purpose. Now what's going to happen from there? Somebody's going to get the egg. Somebody might get allergic to or have some kind of an adverse reaction to, the hormones. And then there's going to be a legal suit that will ensue. And who's going to have to deal with that? Not the farmer, not the farmhands, the farmer. Okay? And that will be an overload. I'm sure you agree with me. All right. That's an example. Okay? Now, Mr. Hubbard wrote an article called Lines and Hats. And in this article, he mentioned there are many factors involved with running a company, running a business, running an organization. Okay, but he isolated 3 of them that cause the most trouble to business owners, to executives, or people running an organization. All right, and these are personnel. Right? This is the person himself holding a position. Right, his identity, his ideas, feelings, what have you. The person himself. 2 is hats. And hats is a term that was coined from in the olden days when you had railroads and you had different people working on the train having different hats. You had the conductor, the engineer, the guy that handled the ticket, the guy that handled the luggage. Everybody had a different hat. So you were able to recognize who does what by the hat they were wearing. And that's where it comes from. The hats are really the layout of what the person is supposed to be doing, his task, his duties, his responsibility, his or her responsibility as it relates to that post is holding. Okay? Lines are what is uniting everybody, who is connected with who, and what travel on those lines within and outside the organization. Okay? These are the 3 things that are causing the most trouble to you as the business owner, as an owner. Okay? Now, it's a very interesting thing you need to understand here. You can always trace the source of the overloads to any of those 3 areas or a combination thereof. All right? Now, I'm sure you agree with me that in order to solve a problem, you need to recognize the correct source of the problem. Okay? So you cannot solve a flat tire by fixing or changing the brakes. I won't solve the flat tire. Okay? Now you might be laughing at this, but I'm telling you, I've seen lots of business owners that are trying to change the flat tire by fixing the brakes, right? The problem is you're too much into it, and you're not stepping back, and you're looking at the whole scene. And that's what I'd like you to do, right? Just take a step back, look at the whole scene. If you're trying to handle something and it's not fixing, well, this is another problem. There's something else sitting there, right? Again, 3 elements: lines, hats, and personnel, the terminal himself, right? Now, let's say you have a problem with Susie, right? Her job is to send the invoices, collect the money, right? But you always have accounts receivable jacked up the roof, and there's a cash flow problem because the money is not being collected on time, right? Okay, obviously Susie's the problem, so you're going to fire Susie because she's not doing her job, right? Okay, if that would be the problem, you get another competent Susie there to actually handle the problem. Now, collections would happen. But after you fired 3 or 4 Susies and you still have a problem with your accounts receivable, well, maybe it's time to look at other areas, right? So you look and you find out that, well, Susie is also in charge of the selling and the marketing of the products in your business. Now, the more marketing she does, the more sales she does, and the less she will be able to handle your collections, right? Obviously, she has to sell in order to collect, so this is where her attention is. Now, that comes from earlier in your organization's life. When you were smaller, one person could handle both functions, okay? So now it becomes a hat problem. That hat needs to be divided in 2, so you can have a person handling that post responsibility, and another person can handle the other one. You do that, you get basically an AR/AP clerk to deal with that. You give the job to Susie to handle the sales, and everything goes fine. Now your ARs reduce, you make more money, your cash flow problem is handled, and you get even more sales because now you got somebody that's in charge of sales. That would be an example, right? So the point is, if you try to handle something and it doesn't work out for you, it doesn't solve, then there's something else. It might be if you try to handle the hat and it doesn't solve, or it might be the personnel, maybe the guy in there is not qualified for the job, or it might be the line is not working. Basically, you put somebody there, but everybody's bypassing him because nobody knows about him, so that there's no line there. That might be another problem, another situation, right? So what I'd like you to do is to make a list of the areas of overload in your business right now. Make a list and then look at it. Is it lines? Is it hats? Or is it personnel? Okay? And look into it yourself. Or it might be a combination thereof, right? And send me your communication on it. I'd like to know what you've come up with, and maybe I'll be able to help you a little bit with this. Okay? Another point that you need to understand, when this is not done, when you try to handle something and it's not fixing, it affects the engagement level and the motivation of your staff. Your staff get demotivated. They're not as much on board, right? Now you have to push more, you have to drive more, the problems are not getting handled as much, and it gets to be a pain to come to work. Okay? The engagement level of your staff is also an indicator of the areas of overloads. And to help you with this, I've made a specific checklist that you can use for each one of your staff, and you can see who's engaged and who's not on an objective level, not emotional but objective. Really look at, are these things happening with my staff? If so, then that means that maybe that staff is not engaged. This is something I want to look into. Okay, I'm providing that for you for free. The link is below. Click on it, get advantage of that checklist and apply it. I'd like to know your results on this as well. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope you got some good information, some good pointers on this. And as always, I'm always open for feedbacks and questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much.